around 30 minutes, and there's so much insight that you guys can share with this wonderful group here. I want to start with terminology because we're talking a lot about impact, SDGs, sustainability, and there's a lot of greenwashing going on. Everybody now puts sustainability and carbon neutral in front of their, corporate language. So, Gebhard, I want to start with you. How would you define sustainability, and what does it mean to you?
Sustainability. So to me, sustainability means that we live and consume in a way that does not jeopardize the ability of future generations to live and consume. And I'm now 48 years old, and I know that we have been doing the opposite for these last 48 years and more. And some of you will know this, I think it's called Earth Overshoot Day, which illustrates very well that we are over-consuming and that we are not leaving enough resources for future generations, that we are jeopardizing their abilities to have a decent life, and that's a problem. And this Earth Overshoot Day in Austria, it's the 6th of April, meaning that it just takes 1 quarter for us to go into overshoot. And for the world, it has moved since 1970. We have been in the red. It was first in December, now it's end of July. And that's why my issue with sustainability is we don't know what sustainability is anymore because we have never lived sustainably. And when I hear the chief sustainability officer talking about sustainability, to me it's like a general who has been fighting a war for the last 50 years telling me about what peace looks like. I think there is a general misconception what sustainability is. I think for many people it's like we are going in the wrong direction and now we learn to go slower. But that's not the solution. If we go slower, you're still on the wrong path, and we have to reverse course completely, and that's my issue with the terminology.
I gotcha. Thank you so much. Josephine, Edward, I saw you nodding, maybe as you're drinking. Josephine, you first. What is sustainability for you? What does it mean to you?
Thank you so much. So basically, as part of the Vienna Business Agency, we thought a lot about the terminology of sustainability. We were deciding to use the word impact for many, many reasons. I think if you look into the history of the word sustainability, like Brundtland report in '87, there was this broad idea of, okay, we can use as many things so the rest of the next generation have enough to live. So this is a very human-centered idea and approach. I think this is part of the problem what Gebhard was saying before that we have right now. So with this approach, I think we struggle a lot at the moment to really get the urgency of the problem, to really get what is happening around. So we decided then to take the donut model of Kate Raworth. I think it's an interesting model and also a good visualization of the overshoot Gebhard was mentioning, and also the social foundations. So this is something very important for me to understand. We have these ecological boundaries, and this is not only CO2, it's not only climate. There are many more factors and indicators, but there are also the social foundations, and we cannot miss to also focus on that, even so it makes it very complex. And the urgency in the climate field is absolutely seen and understandable at the moment, but we still need to push on many levels.
Yeah, thank you. That's a very good point. We always talk about the E and the G, but the S often gets overlooked, right, in ESG. Edward, for you, as you are on the forefront of, using innovation and startups in terms of driving...
no pressure.
No pressure, of course. What is it for you? What are you mostly focusing on?
Hi, everyone. Good morning. Sustainability for me is very simple. It's very personal. And sorry if it's a little bit emotional, but it's waking up every day, going to sleep every night, in being able to look in my children's eyes, knowing that I do and that we do everything we can now and in the future to make this world a better place for them. That's it.
Period.
That's simply it. It's practicing what you preach. It's walking the walk. It's working for a company that I know is 100% committed to a green and sustainable future for energy. It's working together with wonderful partners. I see one of them right here, Servus Hans, who are also committed to this task. It's working with startups that really give a shit and are trying as well. And it's investing in them and nurturing all of that.
Wonderful. Tell us a bit exactly what you do and how you're driving your vision of building a better world forward.
Well, I don't know if we're doing enough, but I've been the startup engagement manager of VERBUND for 4 years now. I've been in the company quite a bit longer than that. And by the way, Gebhard, you're only 48 years young. I'm 47. We started the VERBUND X Accelerator in 2020, March 2020, perfect timing. Really looking for ways to decarbonize and make more sustainable the future of energy and infrastructure, not only in Austria, but everywhere we can. We have now 9 wonderful partners in the program. We are actively doing 7 pilot projects this year with startups from Austria, Europe, and the US. And hopefully we're actually not just doing innovation and startup engagement as cabaret or theater, but really trying to implement and integrate these things. And last year, VERBUND also started VERBUND X Ventures. I've been trying to get that started for so long. I think I had hair when we started this endeavor. But now we are actively doing that. VERBUND has started its own corporate startup last year, Hallo Sonne. This is a rooftop PV as a service business. So if anyone's out there and wants and needs some PV on the roof, let me know.
Right.
And we will also begin and have begun investing in startups. I can't tell you which one we've done first, but there will be a press release pretty soon.
Congrats, that's awesome. Josephine, talking about startups, how did it come and what exactly are you doing in the impact space with the Vienna Business Agency, right? Coming from the public sector and innovating in that field, pioneering in that field. Tell us a bit about your journey and what you've seen.
Yeah, thank you so much. So my journey started like 3 years ago at the Vienna Business Agency. And when I came there, I was very lucky that there was already a bit going on in the field of impact and sustainability. And I came from this field of activism, studying socioeconomics and like with a major in sustainability. So like, I think in the 2nd or 3rd month, I spoke to my boss and I asked like, okay, what can we do more? Like what could be done? Because what we see at the moment, if I talk to all the startups, we're doing a lot of like knowledge transfer services like coachings, workshops, trainings. And I still miss the topic of sustainability in many, many of the sessions. And she was saying, okay, if you have any ideas, just go ahead. Like, there's budget. I think we really need this topic. So we then started to do a strategy. We started to ask a lot of experts, corporations, also wonderful cooperation partners like and stakeholders like Tech4SDGs. So thank you so much for the invitation, by the way. So cool that we had all these people already in the ecosystem around, like the Impact Hub and many more. And we developed like a strategy of saying, okay, what could be our main focus on, because there are so many things you can focus on, clearly. And we figured out that there are so many SMEs and startups out there who have no clue about sustainability at all. So this is clearly a bubble, and it's still a bubble. Even so, the finances, the fundings, etc., are rising in this field. We see what is coming from the European Union. But the reality is a lot of them are not knowing about what to do and why to do it and how to do it in the end. So this is what we're doing at the moment. We're having like a pool of 30 experts, and we launched this in 2023. All the services are free of charge, so every SME, every startup can approach us. They can get coachings. It's about, well, it's ranging about the sustainability business model, also to climate impact forecasting, and we're really trying to get this together with them on the ground. And we're at the moment in this phase of also learning, like every day when I'm doing workshops, every day when I'm, you know, talking to all the startups and coaching them, is like a learn and grow. And this is what we also realized: we need all the stakeholders. We need the people like Gebhard, we need people like VERBUND, we need all of them to see what's going on in the field. How can we help, how can we support, and how can we prepare them to, from the beginning, start to build businesses in a completely different way, because this is, when we're honest, what we really need. It's not enough to do the triple bottom line. I mean, it's I would call it a weak sustainability model. Why? Because the field of impact is very small. If you see, you know, the 3 circles, and only in the middle there is the impact happening. But what around the rest? Like, what about the rest of your business? So we're trying really to focus on the core of their service, core of the business, because we think it's urgent, and we don't have time to, you know, talk about where do we, you know, do the CER reports around what are we doing in other countries. We really want to focus them on the core business.
And on local impact,
Yeah.
right? Yeah, awesome.
Yeah, like on the core. And I think this is where we need good solutions, good helps, good startups. So if you have any ideas, please talk to me later. I'm happy to hear about your ideas.
Wonderful. Kind of bridging these 2 topics, Gebhard, right? Can you tell us a bit about the Climate Lab and what the vision is, and what does the everyday work look like to drive, you know, sustainable change?
So Josephine says that we are still in a bubble, and Federico says that the bubble is growing, which is good. And now the bubble has also a home in the Climate Lab, where we're also trying to invite people from outside into the bubble, and we create exchange. So the Climate Lab is a physical place where people come together who work towards climate action and the circular economy. And I'm very happy to see that some of the people here have chosen to make the Climate Lab their place where they work. And we are here in Vienna at the Donau Canal on 1,000 square meters, 100 people or so, working in different fields, but everything has to do with climate action or circular economy. But we're also doing programs with industry partners, because the hypothesis is we have very little time left, because we decided to ignore the evidence and the scientists. And we are in the business that is very, very hardware driven. We are not in the software business where we run a release, a global release, and then everything's fine. We're in the business of exchanging incredibly expensive stuff: pipelines, power plants, oil fields, distribution systems. There is a lot of capital expenditure in there, and these things have a very long lifetime. So the people who bought or invested into a coal power plant last year, they will not be happy if you tell them 10 years from now, please turn it off, because it has a lifespan of 40, 50, 60 years. So I'm talking too much about, let's go back to the Climate Lab. Because we have such a short period of time to change so many fundamental things in our economy and our society, we cannot rely on the next generation.
Yeah.
We cannot rely on startups. We cannot rely on tomorrow's innovation. We have to work with incumbents. The big incumbents, the big market leaders, they have to change their ways. They have to do it now. And at the Climate Lab, we're trying to bring them together with government, across sectors, with startups sometimes, to figure out a way how we can get this turnaround going.
You already touched upon it, but all 3 of you kind of work in the same area in terms of bringing together different players. And you mentioned the time crunching aspect of it, right? The stress of, okay, we need to solve this now. I will merge these two questions because I think you can't answer one without the other. What are the big challenges, as you started to mention, and what are some of the solutions to it, or some of the ways that you found that can help when it comes to bringing those players together, startups, big corp, public sector?
So as always, if you are talking about fundamental change, inertia is a big problem. Okay, but it has worked yesterday. Why do we have to change now? That's one thing. Vested interest, huge. I talked about the hardware. There's so much money in there, and as I said, it's not a very attractive proposition if you say, you know, all your investments will be lost. You have to keep this stuff in the ground. You have to turn off your power plants. You have to let go of your petrol station network, you know. You cannot expect people to jump at that and say, yeah, great, hooray, hooray, let's write off all these assets. So these are issues. What are the factors that make change possible? I never expected I would say that, because in '94 I voted against the EU accession of Austria for environmental reasons.
Okay.
And now I have to say, thank God we have Brussels. Thank God we have the taxonomy. Thank God they are pushing our politicians. So this is an enabling factor. And what I also see is that the street, climate protests also make a difference, which is why I joined them this Friday, because I believe that we have to go hit the street. Otherwise, things will not start changing, because there's so much inertia in the system.
Wonderful. Thank you so much for sharing that. Edward, from your perspective, you said it took you a while to get the accelerator going, right? And working within big corp and trying to get them to embrace innovation, embrace sustainability. What are some of the challenges also structurally that you saw within a big corporation to make that work, actually?
I don't know where to begin. Luckily, the sustainability is in the DNA of the company that I work for. Hallelujah. But nevertheless, I think some of the challenges when it comes to implementing innovation or trying to work with new companies and new solutions is the status quo. Also is in the DNA of, you know, wir haben keine Zeit, keine Ressourcen. We don't have time, we don't have resources to do innovation. So it's actually winning over business units and people who are really working with customers on a daily basis to say, actually, you do have time for it. We do have resources for it, and we're here to help you do that. And that's really what I think that was the challenge of starting these programs, and also finding other partners who also have those challenges and want to do something about it. It took time, and it's still not perfect. There's a lot of room for improvement. Hopefully we can still do this and really build a sustainable platform that not only you know, fosters this work with innovative startups, but also within industrial corporates that really do need to decarbonize, and really to support them in their efforts.
Thank you. Going back to startups and young entrepreneurs and, you know, the early stage companies, you started to mention about the challenges that you see, which really surprised me in terms of, okay, you actually have to teach them on how to incorporate sustainability instead of the other way around, which I've seen often, where sustainable companies come to you and you need to teach them the basics of, you know, business acumen and that kind of stuff. Especially in the Austrian market that is so small, right? What are the challenges that you see working with these small companies, and what are some of the changes that you've seen in the last 2 to 3 years that maybe facilitate the change?
I think the challenges I see at the moment is, but I think it's for every, you know, for every organization quite different. But for us, we have very different target audiences. So they bring a very broad level of understanding of what sustainability is, but also of what is the next step for them to really achieve impact. And I think from this perspective also, when I see all the workshops, and I think this is something we quite often underestimate, is the level of emotions. why do I say this? I say this because, like, in my experience, like 40% or 50% of the time when I'm doing workshops, I'm not often doing workshops at the moment. That's the reason we have a lot of experts. This is also what I hear from them, is overwhelm, is frustration, and this is this level of helplessness in a sense. Even so, and this was also shocking to me, they are already claim or are impact startups or social businesses. So I think this is something we all need to tackle in different times of the day, in different levels in our job. I think this is what you mentioned in the beginning, but this is something we also need to tackle, no? Is the feelings around these topics. So this is a challenge definitely, to get always back to the stage of there is little time, but there is time, and every inch, you know, every little part of 1.5 degrees we can achieve, it's still worth it. It's still so worth it. And for me, this is also something, finding ways of bringing people and startups into action. Because you can have a good mission or a good vision, but then have really the strategic tools to then in the end really do it and achieve it. And the next part is, and this is something I think we will see so many things happening in the next years, is the measurement. Is the impact measurement, it's the impact management, and the non-financial reporting. I mean, I spoke yesterday to 30 startups about, like, do you know about the non-financial reporting? I mean, in 2026, the SMEs will need to start doing it. I mean, they have the option to opt out until 2028, but do you know what to do, and do you start already measuring it? And they don't even know that it's coming. So I think this is a challenge I see at the moment. So we are thinking about at the moment what to do to really push the topic, and then really teach them how to do a good report. Because my hope is that it won't be like the tax report.
Right.
That it will be something you do and you know why you're doing it and you see the benefits.
Wonderful. Yeah. Okay, let's stay on that emotional side. Let's try to uplift that, and with all your shared experience, right? Really quick fireside question. What really excites you in terms of innovation, and what is keeping you hopeful and getting you up every morning to keep doing what you're doing? Gebhard, you want to start?
Yeah, I start off with a very boring answer, so it gets better from here. I'm excited about technology that already exists and is tested and is now scaling fast. That excites me. So what excites me most at the moment is to see that PV is really taking off in this country. And now it's out of this niche where some nerdy guys put it on and it's expensive. It has become the cheapest way to produce energy independently. And that gives me hope, because that will also happen with other technologies. And that's going to help us get out of this mess.
Perfect, thank you. For you, Edward, what is it that makes you hopeful and get up in the morning and keep fighting?
Sorry, I'm going to skip that question. I only have a few seconds. I'm not a politician. I'm not a socialist. But I'm going to tap my inner Greta right now. Solution is simple. Wealthy countries, wealthy companies, and wealthy people need to reduce their carbon footprint now. Not next year, not tomorrow, now. We can do this. Stop pointing the fingers at poor countries or poor people.
Love it.
It's simple. That's what gets me, I don't know if that gets me motivated every day, but I work with great and innovative companies every day, innovative people, innovative partners.
It's on us, there's no excuse, right?
Come on.
Yeah.
Come on. Stop.
Awesome. Josephine, last words from your end. What makes you hopeful?
3rd of March, global climate strike. The people who are really fighting in this country and around the world to get this going. And my hope is that you're all going, that you're joining us. I will be also there. So this is a hope I see. And I think I'm coming from the field of activism, and I think all the things we see around us, like only working 5 days, and the holidays we do have, the rights for me to sit on this panel, to be able to go to university, stuff like this is all it wasn't normal. It was something people fighted heavily for it. And this is something we can all do every day. And when I look into many faces, many familiar faces, I know that all of you are fighting so heavily to get this going. So this is my hope. But it's nothing, I think it's still, like in Germany you would say, it's still Handarbeit.
Yeah.
It's still something we need to do with our hands. It's something we need to fight for. This is something, this gives me hope because I see people on the street. A startup, I thought it's also cool to mention one, is Reduce. Because what Gebhard is saying is a very interesting story. They have a 20-year-old prototype. What they are doing is out of reed and clay noise walls. So Austria is one of the countries with the most noise walls around their highways, which is super good because in terms of biodiversity, for social reasons, for many, many reasons. But at the moment, we use concrete for it. Like 89% of them are out of concrete. And Reduce found a way to do it in a very ecological friendly way. And it is also an insect hotel, which I think is
wonderful.
really, really cool. And their prototype is 20 years old because her father was doing it. And at this time, everyone was saying, you know, concrete is so much cheaper and it's better and this will fall apart. I mean, it's only clay. And now it proved it's still there and it's better than the concrete and it is working. And now the times are right, so the daughter is picking up. And I hope they will find a lot of good partners to do it. But they have the prototype because somebody started with a crazy idea. And
Love it.
my hope are all the crazy ideas.
Beautiful last words. Thank you so much for sharing your insights. Feel free to reach out to these three wonderful individuals to ask your questions and connect. Thank you again, and thank you for having me.